for somebody. That's the old name of the wrong. So now he's starting back.
How you doing?
He's gonna start getting there.
Yeah.
Down here on 20. Yes.
Angela, do you want me to wait for Dave? Angela, did you want me to wait for Dave? You want me to wait for Dave?
Yeah. We still got like 60 seconds.
Okay.
Run.
He's from the town sometime. Daniel's gonna start there Friday. He wanted to start at the one on by the freeway, but he could never get home. The way they do it now is so weird, this AI system to try to get a. If you go, I mean, obviously, so if he,
Oh, look at that.
and I thought about it, but.
I was telling you about them telling me it was safe to drive my car without my keys.
You said it was as long as the car, right?
That's the piece they have me driving without. Doesn't that look like a pretty significant piece?
That was important.
It does, doesn't it? All right.
All right, we will call the regular meeting of June 27th, 2023 to order. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Douglas.
Here.
Ms. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Horvath.
Here.
Mrs. Sensi.
Here.
And Mr. Thompson.
Here,
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Ms. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Mr. Horvath.
Yes.
And Mrs. Sensi.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Is there anyone wishing to give a board member report this evening? All right, we don't have anyone registered for public participation. We'll talk about the OPSI agreement.
The OPSI agreement is up for ratification this evening. Do you want to do the recommendation? Then we can do the discussion and I'll talk about it.
Sure.
What's in it? Okay.
We have a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Okay, so they approved the role with a couple modifications to some of the salary schedules that sort of needed to be cleaned up. As you know, much of the classified contract is below the going rate out in the community. And there's no way we could even bring it up to the going rate without bankrupting the district, but we were able to move a couple salary schedules that we're able to get it passed. So all our educational assistants that are special needs are all on the same salary schedule. We move some things around in food service so that those schedules are, more up to with a little bit of an increase so that we can get staff. So we eliminated the nutrition services helper schedule and moved those people to another schedule. We put the we moved them to the cashier's schedule. So cashiers and the helper are on the same schedule. It just sort of made sense. So those were the types of changes that we were able to make in order to get the agreement ratified.
So this is the collective bargaining agreement with the Ohio Association of Public School Employees, which is the union that represents most of the non-teaching staff that the district employs.
Because we already had settled with MEA back in May.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath.
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
And Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Reports and recommendations of the treasurer.
Okay, first off, I would like to recommend the approval of the below grant funds for fiscal year 2024. Title 1A, Title 1 non-competitive, Title 2A, Title 4A, Idea View Special Education, and the Stronger Connections Grant.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just, because we've, had many grants for many years. Why are we dividing them this way? Is this for your,
These are already established grants that we get every single year. So this is just me putting a different, it's called Special Cost Center than the 9024 that's behind it. So it's establishing all the new grant funds that they're gonna drop in for next fiscal year. They'll be able to expend.
Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
yes,
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, I would like to recommend the approval of the permanent appropriations and the certificate of estimated resources.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
yes,
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, and I wanted to give a little bit of an explanation behind this. There's a resolution, once again, if you recall, on June 14th on our meeting, we passed the resolution of necessity, the first step in the process for our permanent improvement levy to go through the process of going to the Board of Elections. I took that resolution that was drawn up by our attorneys to the county auditor's office, where they went through the process of certifying it. Once I got the certification back and gave it back to our attorneys to recertify it for the second resolution, there were some discrepancies. Apparently legislation has changed and in the way different county auditors are certifying renewals now. The effective rate is different from what was passed before. We will still be collecting the same amount of money. However, we needed a little bit of verbiage changed in the resolution. So that's why in this resolution, it will be the official resolution of necessity for the PI levy that I'll be taking back to the county auditor for the resolution to proceed. But there's also language in there that's going to rescind what we did back on the 4th. So I would like to recommend the resolution declaring the necessity of levying a renewal tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation and requesting the county auditor to certify matters in connection therewith.
I'll move.
can I continue with discussion first, or we need
Let's
the,
do a second. And then we'll
Okay.
do the discussion.
okay, go ahead.
Second.
Discussion?
So I had asked you earlier and you, verified that yes, this is still collecting at the same rate, even though it is going to be different language. And just for the community to know as well, it's still used the same way. It's still, the language doesn't make it be able to be used for anything different than what it was already intended for. And I just want to make sure that the community understands that because we're changing it. That's all.
The little bit of verbiage that was changed was the amount, I think it was in section 4 of the resolution, the amount per millage. And some county auditors now are using it with the tax reduction factor. Yeah, sometimes senior citizens qualify for homestead and roll back. And so that's the figure that Lake County is comfortable using. So that was the verbiage change.
Thank you.
And through both of these steps, this will be a renewal levy on the ballot.
Correct.
And so it's not a new tax. It's just a renewal of a levy that's been on the
And in
books for quite a
July-
while.
And then in July, we'll have the resolution to proceed, which is well within the timeline to get it on the ballot.
Roll call?
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes,
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, I would like to recommend the approval of the transfers and advances for fiscal year end 2023. As attached.
I'll move.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, I would like to recommend the approval of the temporary appropriations for fiscal year 2024. I will send those along with the final appropriations to the county auditor.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Farka.
Yes.
Motion passes. And that concludes my treasurer's report.
Reports to the administrative team.
So this evening, under my reports, I have quite a few items, but I'm going to start with Mr. Dan D. Robertus. He has been meeting with me a couple different times, and we've been talking about ways that we can make some different improvements to our complex at the high school. And he'd like to present some of his ideas to the board this evening.
Hi, everyone.
Right.
And you have it in your packet.
There are some packets. Sorry, I don't have a PowerPoint prepared.
Can I interrupt for just a second? If you move a little closer to that, what looks like a mini Roomba.
This,
That would give us who's ever watching. can-
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
With talking to Angela and just looking around town and looking at the amount of money you guys might have to do certain improvements and not wanting things to just kind of crumble away because you're waiting for money or whatever. I came up with this idea of a Blue Streak Revitalization Committee. Now, I haven't put this committee together yet because I wanted to get the board's blessing that possibly like to work with this committee. And it would be a nonprofit with a board that would solicit donations and donated work from members of the community that can be given to the school district for improvements. And like I said, we would have a board and a small board, nothing too big, not too many people. And these people would be residents with children in the district. I think would be the requirement for that. And if the board would like to work with something like that, then we'll move forward and set up all the committee legally. As for the improvements that we had talked about, one of the things was the stadium over there, the sports complex, which is, tending to crumble after 30 years of Northeast Ohio weather and whatever else. So we came up with a few fixes that would maybe make the place pop a little bit more, since that's what everybody sees when they come into town or drive by or check out the town. If they're thinking about moving here, just one of the things here is a new coat of paint for the locker rooms and the concession stands. We were thinking a nice light gray color that would go with the blue roof. It's a little bit nicer than the pink block. Of course, the color would have to be approved by the board. Maybe some new graphics on the front of the building, concession stands, new signage. Everything's listed here in this packet I gave everyone. And I'm not going to go through every single line item, but basically that first item is taking care of the buildings on premises. Next thing would be the memorial, the landscaping around the memorial, cleaning it up. I already spoke with my future brother-in-law, runs all the nurseries for Petiti Gardens, and they'll give us whatever we need. So a low maintenance landscaping. Some of those bushes are so big, they're just toppling over and they'll need to be ripped out. I spoke with a local landscaping company who's ready to help. So whenever those plans get approved as well, we can move forward with that. Other little things, flags on the flagpoles, straightening that American flagpole out there that's going to topple over. and you know, all you have to do is talk to the Legion and the other one,
VFW.
VFW, and I'm sure they'll be happy to donate things like that. Also, it is Dick Hamblin Field, but nobody knows who Dick Hamblin is. You know, I mean, I know, and you guys know, but who is Dick Hamlin? There's no representation of who Dick Hamlin is. So I feel like if it's going to be called Dick Hamlin Field, he needs some kind of plaque out there. And I'm also going to talk to the Legion about that too, because they were the driving force behind that, renaming the stadium that. These other things are vinyl fence wraps for the fence around the stadium. It would make things pop. It would cover up that rusty fence. I don't know what the cost to replace that is.
Fencing.
I'm sure it's expensive. So these are all things that can brighten the place up, make it look nice. New signage, a new sign going across the top that says Madison Blue Streaks, if we can get it donated, which I'm sure we can. And I do graphic design, so I can do anything pending board approval, of course. And just basically tidying up the place. And that would just be kind of the first project. And hopefully, if it goes well, the committee can keep going and keep donating and keep fundraising. I mean, I had talked to Angela about doing various fundraisers throughout the year, similar to the car, another car, who knows? Advertise it a little bit more, get the car out there so everybody can see it, and sell more tickets. And on the last picture there, new landscaping along the soccer fields, which can be donated and has already been negotiated. Okay, thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
Did you notice anything? Because all of this is pretty much focusing on right around the football stadium. Did you
It is.
notice anything that is needed? Because honestly, I haven't been to a soccer game since my kids, graduated. And I haven't been to the baseball games in quite a long time. Did you notice anything with the baseball fields or the soccer fields that are in need of?
I was thinking eventually, I'm trying to get the paint donated from Sherwin-Williams, who's been in town for, how long has Sherwin-Williams been?
Long time.
At least 20 years.
I would say 15, 20 years.
15, 20 years.
Yeah.
But it went up to corporate, and this went through my friends, who's a local painter, his Sherwin-Williams rep. It went to corporate and immediately got turned down. But that doesn't, I just need an email, maybe from me and maybe signed by some board members or Angela, and we could maybe push that through. I think that donating, I don't know how many gallons of paint it would be, but it's the least they could do for being in town that long. And then I figured if that went well and looked nice, all the dugouts and around could be all painted, and possibly graphics on the side like they do at Riverside. Those are all hand painted, if you like.
Riverside's look nice.
Yeah, they
Those look
look
nice.
nice, and they probably had students out there
Yeah.
doing the hand painting and things like that. Things that'll just, that don't cost a lot of money, that just make the place pop and look new. And the soccer field's not in bad shape. The baseball fields, I haven't walked that far. But I'm not just focusing on the
Sure.
stadium there. I
Yeah,
just figured it
start
was a
somewhere.
good place to start.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And everybody sees that, and people come in from out of town, they go to football games, and they come in from out of towns and go to soccer games and baseball games. But you gotta start somewhere. And like I said, keep this committee thing going. And, once my kids move through the school, or even before that, hopefully it can be handed down to the next group. And they can just, hopefully it becomes a thing.
Right, keeps the energy going.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you
listening.
very much.
Thank you for your work.
Appreciate it. Well, I am going to continue with some people that want to do things. On the list is for a long time, it's been the lecture hall, and Mr. Brady with the assistance of Bingo, they are going to donate the flooring and recarpeting of everything in the lecture hall. So it's a $51,000 donation.
Wow.
So they are, they are purchasing the carpeting and all of that, working with Mr. Brady with the color scheme he selected to have it redone. So we hope to have it done before school starts. So if that's the case, then we would have our August board meeting at the high school to showcase the changes to the lecture hall. Because
Wonderful.
he ripped out all those seats last year, got tables and chairs put in, and now the carpeting's gonna be done. And then I think the next phase needs to be probably some of the sound systems so that when kids are performing in there for small performances, the sound system is a little better. But, incrementally, he's been getting the job done, so kudos to him. As Danny referred to, there are people that are willing to do things if you ask, and TJ Gaber is going to help work with us to start power washing segments of the high school. It's a big building, so it can't be, it'll sort of be done in segments, but that building has never been power washed or cleaned. So he's meeting with Pat Smith in the coming week to talk about which area they're going to tackle first. So, and put together a project plan. Next on my item is the state budget. I was hoping to be sitting here tonight saying it looks like it's gonna happen on Friday. If I'm a betting person, I wouldn't be betting the farm on Friday for the budget to be settled. The House has already voted to do a continuation to have temporary spending authority for the start of July 1, because they have to have spending authority as we do. We're doing all our year end, everything at the state closes on June 30th as well. So they have to have a continuation, and the House has done that. The Senate is in session tomorrow. And based on what I've read, it looks like that could possibly happen. They have 880 differences between the House version of the budget and the Senate version of the budget to work out before they can have what's called a concurrence bill to present to the whole legislative body. So it does not look like that is happening before Friday. Now, miracles could happen and everybody could, talk and figure it out. The good news is I still think we're gonna end up pretty well off in this budget, whether it's the Senate or the House version or some sort of concurrence where they meet in the middle with the Fair School Funding Plan. Although the Senate's kind of changing some terms around with the Fair School Funding Plan, but at the end of the day, this 2-year budget would bring hopefully a significant amount of money to our general fund. Not willing to say the number yet because until they pass it, anything can happen. Any questions on that? Let's just wait and see. If you get texts from me, like in the middle of the night, on Friday night, that's why I'm texting. Yay, the budget passed. Or whenever it does happen. The last time they did not pass a budget on June 30th, there was not a budget till July 17th. So. I do want to congratulate Dave Nagan here. We've got a resolution for him a little later in the presentation for being named the News Herald Coach of the Year. When he came to me and said, I want to coach girls softball, I was like, you're up for that challenge. And he said, oh, I want to do this. I've got plans, I've got ideas. And he just went, and it was great to be an observer in the background, watching all your success this year and the girls having fun. Because that's what makes it important. It's, winning is great, but them having fun is also great. So Dave, do you want to say anything?
The baseball field needs drainage.
That was excellent. That was excellent.
No, thank you. It was a great year and good assistant coaches who have kids' interests at heart. With good kids and with high visions and expectations produce results. And I concur with everything you said. There's a lot that needs done with our facilities. But if you went by the softball field this year, I think you drove by and you saw some immediate changes to that complex. You saw a fence that we purchased for the JV field that made it look like a field, and banners that went all along Burns Road from community businesses that we wanted to say, hey, we're here. And so that was the first step, is say, hey, we're in this to be excellent. And so now we're just gonna keep building on it. Graduated 4 really good seniors, gonna be hard to replace on the field, but I spent all weekend watching a bunch of middle schoolers playing on the diamonds, encouraging them, and hopefully we can get more kids involved in the sport. So, yeah, thank you to everybody here for acknowledging that, but it's everybody else that helped make it happen. So,
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And
Thank
we
you,
have
Dave.
several strong candidates that we're hiring tonight. 2 of them are here. One had to work this evening, but Carolyn Quinn, who is not here, will be filling in as the high school guidance counselor. Jacqueline Rhodey took leave. It's a big job. She's a new counselor, but she is excited. She's worked with us for half a year, sort of watching what Julie and Jacqueline did when she wasn't subbing in between. And then, Jacqueline went out on leave in April, and then she helped with graduation and all the year-end activities. So she is going to be a good fit at our high school. Marnie Brozowski, right? All right. She's going to be a new intervention specialist at North. She comes to us from the ESC of the Western Reserve. All right. And Sarah Spatafora, did I do that right? Or? Okay. Is our new speech pathologist. And she will be at South in the preschool. So she comes to us, Ashtabula. And we're very lucky to have a seasoned speech pathologist replacing Carol Vargo. Because the needs of our kids are great. And, that experience is going to go miles for us. All right, so welcome everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And then finally, I do want to take a moment to discuss the pay to participate fee increase that is on this agenda. When we think about what we need to do to handle costs and fees and transfers and advances and all those things that Sarah does at year end, while athletics does bring in some money, it's not totally self-sufficient, as we know. So one of the big increases this year that, cost in our sports world is fuel, transportation, between parts and fuel and referee costs. Those things went up exponentially. Also, our coaching staff does get percentage increases. So we are recommending a 20% across the board increase for athletics and a 20% increase in the activity fee for things like clubs. So that'd be drama, choir, band, the club at part of that aspect. Because again, general fund, as you know, we cannot continue to bear the costs, the full burden of the costs. We do pick up a significant amount of the costs. And looking at where we're landing, because even with regular fees, which aren't on this schedule, we'll be recommending actual value increases on some of those things because shipping costs have gone up. Everything just continues to rise.
I think that it's also maybe beneficial to point out that, there are other districts that, don't pay for their sports programs at all. It's 100% paid for by the participants. And that the state would like to, they've recommended that, Madison do the same. And we are hesitant to do that because we know how terribly important it is for kids to feel tied to their school and have, that involvement. Some kids only only come to school so they can play their sports. And it goes hand in hand. It really does, in my opinion. So I hope we never get to the point where we have to be in that position where we have to make students pay 100% of the cost. Again, I hope we never get to that point. It doesn't mean that we won't ever get to that point, but I think that for the most part, I can only speak to for myself, but I do think that the majority of the board feels the same in that we want to hold off on that for as long as possible.
And I do, want to say that there are opportunities for families to get some help if need be. So we do have opportunities, whether it's, participating in working bingo or some of those activities. So,
So the increase for the first sport is $30. Is
yes,
that
yeah, it's
the
20%,
dollar
right?
figure?
So when I-
20% sounds bigger, but the fee
Right.
structure is already lower than
Yeah.
other districts.
And I can reference it right now if you want me to. The first sport, what was 150, it's gonna go up to 180. Same with the second sport. Third sport was 75, now it's going up to 90. That's at the high school, middle school. They're gonna make me do the math. I don't have it that written, but it's now gonna be 120. Second sport's gonna be 120, and third sport's gonna be 60.
And yeah, I know you mentioned working bingo, and I know that they used to do that long ago, even when my older kids were in school, but the parents had to work the bingo.
Right.
Is there anything available for students to work anywhere to earn money towards their fees?
Nothing at this point. We
Okay.
tried different, when we first did pay to participate fees, somebody tried to do like a candle fundraiser and various
Sure.
things. And those kinds of things just didn't work.
Okay.
And isn't there also like the Lintern Family Foundation that? for the
There are
kids?
some foundations out
Yeah.
there.
I think they have like 5,000 towards Madison.
All right. Anything else or ready for my recommendation? All right. Under the employment section this evening, we're asking you to accept the resignation of Vince Austin, Madison High School English Language Arts teacher, effective at the end of the 2022-23 contract year. To employ Carolyn Quinn as a guidance counselor at Madison High School under a one-year limited contract, effective the 2023-24 contract year. To employ Marnie Brodowski, got it twice, I'm all right, as an intervention specialist at North Elementary School under a one-year limited contract, effective the 23-24 contract year. To employ Sarah, all right, help me. Spatafor as a speech pathologist for the district under a one-year limited contract and for the 23-24 contract year. And the following certificated personnel under a one-year limited supplemental contract for the 22-23 contract year. Art Zencraft as MMS Trip Advisor.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Page,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next item under the employment recommendation is to employ Gary Fortuna as a physical education teacher at North Elementary School under a one-year limited contract, effective the 2023-24 contract year.
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Page,
No.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and then here is our resolution, commending David Nagan for being named News Herald Coach of the Year. And I'm gonna go ahead and read the whole resolution. Whereas David Nagan is a first-year softball coach for the Madison Blue Streaks, and whereas David has been awarded the News Herald Softball Coach of the Year for 2023. Whereas David guided the Blue Streak softball team to a 14-win season, 10 more than they had a year ago. And whereas David Nagan coached the Blue Streak softball team to an outstanding season in the Western Reserve Conference, now therefore be it resolved that the Madison Local Board of Education commends and applauds David Nagan for being named News Herald Coach of the Year for 2023.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Congratulations, and thank you very much for being a wonderful coach and example for our kids. Thank you.
Yep.
We can have your resolution.
Congratulations.
Roll call?
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
and Mrs. Sensi.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next item is a first reading review of board policy updates. So if you do a motion, I'll just talk briefly about them.
I'll move.
Discussion?
Okay, these are as a first reading, these, you have chance to go back, review them if you want before we do a second reading to approve them in July. Most of these are all mandatory changes that are in law. There was very little choice in any of the options. One of the big things is that the volunteer policy is now under one policy, which makes sense because I don't understand why it was under two separate policies before. But it's all now under 8120. There's some things with tobacco use and prevention with regarding signage. Varying policies that are all just mandated under law. So ORC tells us, and then we make the policies. In the budget bill that they're about, whenever it passes, there will be things in law that will again implement a whole nother set of policy changes.
Roll call?
There's no vote. So you don't have
Oh,
to
yeah,
vote on
yeah.
the
Just
first
first
reading.
reading. Okay.
So if you're, any questions? Okay. All right, so the consent calendar then this evening, there's several items. The first is to approve the contract between Educational Alternatives and Madison Local Schools to provide educational and related services for students served outside the Madison Local School District for the 2023-24 school year. To approve a one-year agreement with the School of Ohio Risk Sharing Authority through its carrier Strassman Insurance to provide property, fleet, and liability insurance beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. To approve the agreement between the Madison Local School District and Crossroads Health to provide school-based behavioral health prevention, intervention, and treatment services for students and their families for the 23-24 school year. To approve a contract between the Madison Local School District and Schoolcom Consultants for communication services for the 2023-24 school year, effective August 1st. And to amend the service agreement between the Madison Local Schools and Educational Service Center of the Western Reserve and approve the checklist of service for the 2023-24 school year to include the 24-25 school year as found on file at the board office. And to approve the contract between the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio for audiology and/or hearing services for the 2023-24 school year.
I'll move.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And then finally, to increase the pay to participate fees and activity fees as follows. So for Madison High School, first sport would be 180, second sport 180, third sport 90. Madison Middle School, first sport 120, second sport 120, third sport 60, and then an activity fee of $30 for anything that's not a sport.
I have a quick question.
Yes,
So where does band fall under?
band has fees, class fees. So it's not a club, and then the boosters, they have their own fee that pays for a lot of the extras. So they're
Okay, so
under-
band and choir do not fall under any of these then?
No.
Okay. So what would be activity then?
drama club,
Mhm.
like science club at the high
Okay.
school, those types of things.
Okay. And then my only other question is Madison High School, first sport 180, Madison Middle School is 120. Why the difference? Because like, do they
Less
have,
contest,
they have less, like football has less football games? Okay,
less contest, less travel.
okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes,
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, we do have a need for executive session. But we have a motion to move into executive session for the purposes of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employees or regulated individuals, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or regulated individual, unless such person requests a public hearing.
Almost.
Second.
We will not be conducting any business when we return from executive session. We will simply be adjourning the meeting. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes,
Ms. Hayes,
yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
stand in recess.